This is Roger Struckoff with Syscon TV, and we are in day 3 at Cloud Expo East in New York in the year 2015, if you can believe that. And we're sitting right now with Charles Kendrick of Isomorphic Software, and we're going to talk about isomorphism. We're going to talk about the cloud. We're going to talk about everything that the company does. Charles, thank you for joining us. Tell our audience a little bit about the company and what it does.
We provide a web application framework for building really sophisticated web applications that just run in a browser without any installation need. So we get used for biotech and defense and banking applications. Anytime a company needs to build their own sophisticated software in-house, or a software vendor is selling software into the enterprise, they would use a technology like ours.
It's sort of like it's like I wouldn't call it a magic trick, but you're trying to take something and really extend the capabilities. Is that the idea of why are you doing what you're doing? What problems is it solving?
It's a lot easier for a web application to just be present at a URL. The users can just go right to it, as opposed to any kind of software installation process. And we found that basically all companies at this point want their applications to be web-based rather than being installed off of a CD or any kind of process like that. And what's been happening over the last few years is that people are moving increasingly sophisticated technologies onto the web, and they need stronger and stronger component sets to be able to do that successfully. And we provide a very, very strong component set for that.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. Thin app world can be kind of thin, and you want to take the abilities of someone who're going to find it, the full scale of heavy duty apps, and get them through the web for all the advantages. And what are those advantages for those who are really not yet that familiar with just going right, with the thin app web-based applications and services?
Right, I see what you mean. Yeah. One of the main advantages is that you can get to it from any device at any time. So whether you're on your mobile phone or you are borrowing a colleague's laptop, you're always able to just go to the URL of the application, and there's the application with all of the state and everything that you've put into the application. You just go log in. It really makes it much easier to be able to travel or to be able to just access things, get some work done in the cab on the way to the conference, that kind of ad hoc on-the-go usage of the app.
Yeah, the other sort of critical thing is, the mobility. That's seems to be changing everything, because I think more than 50% of data now is flowing through mobile devices. So, what degree are you looking at functionality and all the stuff that your customers want, and then to what degree are you looking at the user experience?
We do a bit of both. A lot of what our components do is they really empower users to be able to slice and dice data and look at it in their own way, change formatting, that kind of stuff, which really enables the more sophisticated users to get a lot of work done, even though and handle a lot of use cases that the application developer didn't necessarily plan on supporting in the first place. An example is that users can simply define their own highlighting rules whenever they're looking at grid data in our framework, and that's something that the developer doesn't need to actually program into the application. It just happens whenever they use our grid component. And we find that in banking and scientific applications and that kind of thing, you find the more sophisticated end users making use of those kinds of capabilities quite a bit, using also things like on-the-fly frozen columns, or the ability to do grouping by any column. All that kind of stuff makes it so that just anytime you connect a grid to a database in our framework, suddenly there's a huge amount of power that every user has.
How long has the company been around?
15 years. We were started in 2000.
So if you could trace back, what were sort of the challenges then, and how has that evolved, and how might that evolve? I think you take the last 15 years, so that amount of change will probably happen again in like 2 or something like that.
Accelerates.
So how have things evolved up to this point, and how are they continuously evolving now as far as what your customers need?
Right. Well, when we started out, our technology is usually called by the name Ajax or RIA, right? But when we started out, that term was a few years away from being coined. So, in the early years, it was really a process of trying to get people to understand that this was the direction that things were heading in the first place. And once the terms were coined and it became better understood, then suddenly, there was a flood of interest in it. And I think that the trends now. A lot of it just has to do with again bringing like the last few applications that can't be built as web applications and finding ways to make that possible. So.
drag them to the web and make them work. We used to specifically have an Ajax component to this show, and it's very very difficult stuff. But now it's kind of become subsumed almost into what you're doing to deploy to the web. So. Real quickly, if you say, like, what are the top few reasons that people really should come to Isomorphic software, and where can they find you online?
Okay. Probably the number one reason is if you want to build a very sophisticated web application, especially if you're looking to work with large data volume, lots of screens, that kind of thing. Another new thing that we're doing, which relates more specifically to DevOps, is that now that we have such a solid framework and we have really good solutions around automated testing and continuous integration, what we see is that the projects that fail now, it has to do with the requirements phase. And it has to do with miscommunications that happen between developers and business people. So we've started creating a set of mock-up and prototyping tools that allow developers and business people to collaborate on building an increasingly sophisticated prototype. It really eliminates a lot of sources of miscommunication that kill projects. And the other thing, the kind of magic thing that we're doing now is we have some technology that you can take those mock-ups and prototypes and use them in the implementation phase. So we have a tool that will take a sloppily created mock-up and actually turn it into a real working screen, which you can then continue to extend into the real application.
Well, this week has been all about the human element and collaboration and the idea we have all these tools now, but it's not just the technology, and it's organizational and a lot of human factor stuff. It sounds like that's the case with you. And how do people find you online?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we are at smartclient.com.
Smartclient.com. Even I'm smart enough to remember that, I think. Thank you. Yeah, I guess so. Smartclient.com. We've been sitting here with Charles Kendrick from that very organization, Isomorphic Software, also known as smartclient.com. Charles, thank you much for joining us. Thank you for watching. For Syscon TV, this is Roger Struckoff.